Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Hearthstone Ladder Climb. My name is Ikkaris, this is Ikkaris Gaming, and today is episode 26 of our series, where we're taking a look and reviewing my Hearthstone gameplay as I try to climb all the way to Legend. You can see from the ranking, we're back down at rank 10, the season reset, moving into the month of October. So we got D-ranked by 4 spots, but have no fear, we're on our way back up. We're trying something a little different today. Trying out one of my favorite combo decks, Malygos Druid. Kind of a new addition for me. I hadn't had Malygos up until recently, but it's been a really strong deck and a lot of fun to play. So we're assuming here we're matched up against Rogue. There's so much odd Rogue on the ladder these days. We were trying to mulligan for a lot of aggro coming our way. Unfortunately, we don't have the greatest hand. Only the Spellstone's really going to help us. But we can see there on turn 1, Baku did not show up, which means we're not against odd rogue. So now we're trying to figure out what type of rogue this is. Turn 1, playing the Firefly, we can be pretty sure that it's not Quest Rogue, which kind of narrows our options down a little bit to maybe either like Kingsbane or one of the wackier versions of a rogue that's out there is like a Bunny Hopper Rogue. Having the benefit of hindsight, we'll find out that this is actually what I like to call Espionage Rogue, a new deck type with the Boomsday expansion that focuses around the Academic Espionage card, which, to be honest, looks like a pretty fun deck to play. It can be a little bit slow with so much aggro on the ladder these days, but getting a bunch of cards for 1 mana, in my opinion, anyone's opinion, is pretty great. So we need to find a way to deal with that Henge Clan Thug. Luckily, we top decked the Ferocious Howl, armor up, upgrade our Spellstone, blast the Henge Clan Thug with the Spellstone. We're in the clear for now. We don't have the greatest play for turn 5. Of course, we've got the Arcane Tyrant, but you want to try to get that out for free if you play like a bigger spell before it. And you're going to see this quite a bit as we're playing Malygos Druid, where I'm kind of checking how many cards our opponent has, how many cards I have in my hand. Reason for that being, we really don't want to overdraw and end up milling some cards, because you can get some major combo pieces to get destroyed. Like you see, we just got Twig of the World Tree, which is massively important in Malygos Druid. Obviously, you can mill Malygos, which would not be great. And we can see here the other Falderai Strider comes out, so our opponent is clearly trying to shuffle things into the deck. We can assume that there's going to be a lot of shuffle. And then a lot of draw to try to get out as many of these spiders like we see. And then once Espionage comes out, they're going to be trying to draw a ton of those cards as well. Obviously, Espionage giving you your opponent's class cards for 1 mana, which is extremely powerful. But we do have 2 Spreading Plagues in hand, so we're in decent shape for now, but with 4 4/4s, we got 16 damage on the board, and that Henge Clan Thug is only going to get worse as our opponent keeps going. We decide to go ahead and play Malfurion here, put up the Taunt Scarabs just to try to slow our opponent down a little bit. And then next turn, we're probably going to be thinking Spreading Plague, we can Wild Growth, and Arcane Tyrant all in the same turn, but it's going to depend on what our opponent does. And you can see we're slowly working our way down with the Twig of the World Tree. Obviously, you want to use it as early as possible, because it's such a slow card to develop. So we're trying to get in as many whacks with it as possible to try to break it, or at least get it down to 1 mana so that we can pull off the combo at the end of the game. And then there is the Academic Espionage. So shuffle 10 cards from our class, being Druid, into the opponent's deck, and then cost 1. And that can be very spooky, especially if you're playing Druid, because your opponent can have all kinds of crazy stuff. Like you can get a 1 mana Spreading Plague, a 1 mana Ultimate Infestation. There's a lot of crazy stuff that you can do. So now here's what we kind of want to do. with the Wild Growth. I'm sorry, yeah, with the Spreading Plague and with the Arcane Tyrant. Play that out, fill our board with 1/5s, and then play Arcane Tyrant for free. So you're trying to get as much value out of there as possible. We kind of thought about playing Flobbidinous Floop there as another Arcane Tyrant, but you're down 1 attack, and to be honest, I prefer to save Floop for the combo at the end. You know, when you drop your Malygos and you can get spell damage plus 10, you can pretty much just kill anything in one shot if you can get Floop down. So we're not, you know, with still the other Spreading Plague in hand, we're not quite panicked yet, and we don't think it's really necessary to go ahead and play Floop as the Tyrant. So again, we're in a little bit of a rough spot here. And now the Henge Clan Thug is just kind of getting out of control. And, you know, our opponent's got a full board. The good news is, you know, again, we've got that second Spreading Plague, but once we play this, it's going to be gone. Earthen Scales, buffing up the Henge Clan Thug, making it even more spooky. And so we've got another option here as well. And one thing that I kind of like doing is playing Spreading Plague and then using branching paths to buff up your minions. You know, you'll see this a lot in decks like Token Druid, especially. But you know, when you have such a wide and deep board like this, we kind of need to just make it as expensive as possible for our opponent to try to get at us and hit face. So you can see now, bang, we're down to only 1 durability on Twig of the World Tree, which means next time we attack, we can refresh our mana crystals, which is hugely important. And you can see now, this is kind of paying off using the 3 damage, or using the damage buff on our scarabs. Like, it just became extremely expensive for our opponent to try to get through all those. You know, we're now down to just the 1 Henge Clan Thug and the 1 Spider, but it's got 1 health, but out comes the Sprint. So, you know, we're anticipating, and this is exactly what our opponent wants to do. You're going to see a lot of shuffle and a lot of draw in Espionage Rogue. So one thing that we need to be mindful of is how many cards our opponent has in hand, because we do have the Naturalize, which of course we could use on the Henge Clan Thug, get rid of a big threat, and force our opponent to mill some cards. So we're going to have to check how many cards our opponent has in hand. You see there's a bunch of it right there. Or I'd tap it, you know, regularly just to see how many cards are in hand. So whenever possible, if you can use Naturalize to make your opponent mill, you know, it's a pretty good option. We're kind of weighing our options here as, you know, do we want to use Ultimate Infestation, use the branching paths, upgrades the Spellstone for us, and we use the swipe there on the Henge Clan Thug, I think, because, you know, we can probably tell that there's not, even if we had used Naturalize, it wouldn't have milled any cards from our opponent. You know, not ideal to use swipe there, but even, you know, with the combo that we have in this deck with running 2 swipes, the Dreampetal Florist and the Flobbidinous Floop, you're typically not going to get off both swipes. When you do drop your Malygos, you're usually going to get 1 Malygos, play the Floop, and then use a swipe, and then Starfire, and usually that's enough to finish off your opponent. And of course, the deck list will be posted in the comment section down below the video. So if you want to see what we're running, you can go ahead and check that out. And now, you know, Ultimate Infestation, we've got 5 cards in hand. We're kind of hoping that we can drop a 0 mana something, or, you know, hoping that we don't have to break Twig of the World Tree here, but we do have a full hand. You know, we've got 10 cards in hand. We're thinking, you know, do we go ahead and break the Twig, refresh our mana crystals, and play some more cards, which is exactly what we do. We decide that we're going to have to go for playing for Dreampetal Florist to try to get our Malygos mana down to 2. So we're going to get as many cards out of our hand as possible, because, as you can see, we definitely did not want to mill Malygos. That's pretty much our win condition at this point. That's really our only shot. We're staring down a lot of damage here, and unfortunately, we kind of forgot about the Lich King, the Lich King's extra card, but we didn't really want to get rid of the Starfire that's there, the 0 mana spell, because that's part of our win condition. When we drop the Malygos, we want to be able to drop the Starfire, especially if you can get a Floop down as well as Malygos, and you can drop, you can put down 11 damage, you know, straight to the face. And we can see that our opponent's at 19 health, so we're not going to need a second swipe. We may not even need that second Starfire, but you never know. You know, with Academic Espionage, you can never be sure if your opponent's going to be able to pull some crazy card, you know, for 1 mana and then just completely flip the game on you. So that's the logic behind holding on to that. And so we're not really at risk. And this is where Academic Espionage can get really spooky. You can see our opponent just buffed up the entire board with a 1 mana. I believe that card's called Centaurus or Cenarius, and we're okay with milling a card there, the Giggling Inventor. It's unfortunate that we didn't have the second one, but you know, 1 is pretty good in this case. We're going to use the Spellstone on the Hadronox just to get out, you know, that extra minion. We're not too concerned about the Tar Elemental. Not a big deal. Use the Naturalize on the Centaurus. Hear that. Unfortunately, we can't force our opponent to mill any cards, but kind of is what it is. And so now we're kind of in like go mode. We've got the Dreampetal Florist, and one of the kind of tricky parts with this deck is that you want to be able to, ideally, you want to be able to get your Dreampetal Florist down before you have Floop in hand, because there's a little bit of anti-synergy there. You know, your Florist could hit Floop, turn that into 0, and then you're still stuck with a 9 mana Malygos. Now, if that happens, ideally, you would also have your Twig of the World Tree to refresh your mana crystals, and be able to go Malygos, break the Twig, then play your Floop, then play your Swipe, and you know, win the game. But when you've got Floop and Malygos both in hand, like we do here, you know, you just kind of roll the dice and see where you end up. So, you know, and again, we're in a pretty dire spot here. You know, we're facing down a lot of damage. So we go ahead and do, you know, we take that kind of a risky play, going for the Florist. We're just kind of hoping at this point that it does not hit Floop, because you know, we don't have enough damage in hand right now to be able to finish this game. And sure enough, we got lucky. We had a 50-50 shot and it hit. We've got Malygos. So what we need now is to get that second Moonfire in hand. And once we do, or rather the second Moonfire and Swipe, and then once we do, we're in business. You know, 2 mana Malygos, and there's another Cenarius coming down. And this is where it seems kind of fun. The kind of things that Academic Espionage can do, because you can, if you just draw all these all your opponent's class cards, you can get some really powerful stuff for only 1 mana. Now it's a little bit slow, especially in the state of the game right now, where there's just so much aggro in play. But that's pretty cool to see that. So now we're kind of doing some math. We're thinking, you know, if we go Malygos, Floop as Malygos, Swipe Starfire, we win. So Malygos comes out, second Malygos comes out. We can see 14 damage straight to the face, 11 damage to the board, and our opponent just goes ahead and concedes. There's not really much that he could have done there to win that game, and that's the fun of playing these types of combo decks. You can do, you know, some pretty fun stuff, some pretty powerful stuff like this towards the end of the game, especially if you're against a slower opponent. Had this been Odd Rogue, we could have died very easily. You know, there's that old triangle of aggro beats combo, combo beats control, control beats aggro, and so on. But we were on the right side of it this time, and you can see that we're working our way back up the ranks. We're at 10. Rank 10 with 3 stars, and we are shooting hard for Legend this month. So stay tuned for the next ones. We're going to be running Malygos Druid for a little while and see how far it can take us. So check out the next one, guys. Thanks. Take it easy.